If you told me 3 months ago that I'd be making one of these types of videos, but not about a body of water, I'd have said, why the fuck do you care? It's not like I do. But regardless, today's video is about trains. I can't remember much about the history of trains, but I do know that there was an influential politician present at the opening of the Liverpool-Manchester Railway who stood on the tracks and fucking died. And he had some fucking time to get out of the way, because I have streams that are faster than that train was. But the train was indeed invented here in good old Blighty. But I doubt they were very good, mainly on account of the fact the British version of Ticket to Ride is pretty mediocre when compared to the other versions. But rail went global in the next 2 centuries, and it led to Japan creating the bullet train, which popularised the concept of high-speed rail travel. This concept has since caught on in many other countries, such as here, where LNER have made the Azuma with a slogan, "It's like a bullet train, and one of our trains made a baby," in Japan. Which is incredibly weird considering that it's effectively like if a teacher fucked the child of one of his ex-pupils on that same ex-pupil's couch. But maybe that's just me looking too deeply into metaphors. But much like trains in real life, Japan has also recently taken the reins of trains in cartoons away from Britain. That rhymed. Because while we had the likes of Thomas the Tank Engine and... Chuggington, I guess? Anime has since gone full steam ahead with trains. See what I fucking did there? Now, the train phenomenon in Japan has led to the emergence of quote-unquote Tetsudo Otaku, or Densha Mania, both terms meaning train fan, effectively. Now, one character who might fit this description is Izumi from Ara Ara Kiss X Sis. Izumi's obsession with trains might technically be a metaphor for his innocence, as his ownership of a train pamphlet is what manages to abate the thoughts. However, it should be noted that later in the series, trains are used a way for Izumi to get baited by thoughts. And of course, we've got to mention the scene where he's caught spanking it while a song about trains plays in the background. Now this, while funny, is bloody weird. First of all, who uses a mid-2000s CD player instead of a fucking Bluetooth speaker these days? Second, why the fuck did he decide that before he was about to perform the 7-page mudder on Princess Little Piddles, he would decide to play a mid-80s song about trains? Would you imagine self-pleasuring to Rock and Roll Train by AC/DC? I thought not. Now, erectile dysfunction by Lil Float, that's a whole different story. Perfect jerk-off jingle. But moving on to another train enthusiast, we have Kun from Mirai, who also loves trains. In fact, the climax of the movie involves him imagining being lost in a train station, which, had this movie come out when I was 6, would have scared the shit out of me. And let's also mention one of this movie's theme songs, Uta no Kisha. The guy behind the song is Tatsuro Yamashita, who's the king of city pop, and what's more, he's married to the queen of city pop, so there's that. But this is a song all about trains, and we need this guy on Genius. If only because the Gabby Hanna memes have run dry.
What if I'm the monster?
But moving on from a film that would have scared the shit out of me as a kid, to a film that did scare the shit out of me when I was a kid, we have Spirited Away. I think it might be time for an anecdote. So, when I was a kid, I watched a surprising amount of Ghibli films, such as Spirited Away, Ponyo, Arrietty, Howl's Moving Castle, and even Laputa. Now, for some godforsaken reason, I've never watched some of the other classics, like Princess Mononoke, My Neighbor Totoro, or Grave of the Firefields. Now, you'll notice I've just mentioned nothing about trains, and that's because it's been so long since I watched Spirited Away, I've forgotten what happens. Supposedly, the train is a metaphor for adulthood or something, but I can't remember how, so fuck it. The train going across the surface of the water is a metaphor for sad boys thinking they quote-unquote watch really obscure anime despite only watching surface-level stuff. Lo-fi hip-hop beats to chill/suffer to, the album coming soon. Next up, we have Evangelion's use of trains, which is where Shinji sees himself every time he's in the midst of an existentialist crisis, or every 20 minutes to put it accurately. And let me tell you, Shinji is bloody lucky that everyone has evacuated from Tokyo 3, or otherwise these scenes would take place slap bang in the middle of rush hour. And the one thing worse than having someone lecture you about your insecurities is having someone lecture you about your insecurities while you have to stand up. Believe me, really does a number on your legs. Now, I'm going to talk about the Pesci and Prosciutto fight from JoJo's Part 5, but I need views, so I need to go about describing the scene in a different way. Seeing as my most popular video this year featured heavy reference to Apex Legends, I've got to tailor this analysis of the scene to people who might actually be coming from that video. A Bangalore and a Wraith dropped train, but a Caustic and Pathfinder have followed them. Caustic throws his gas grenade, forcing the Bangalore to go after them with a wingman, but Bangalore gets eliminated. The Caustic pushes and gets ambushed by Wraith, and gets down themselves. However, Pathfinder tries to grapple Wraith, who is in a down state, but thankfully Wraith has a gold shield and so can self-revive. After taking some of Bangalore's heavy ammo, Wraith confronts Pathfinder and knocks them so they can perform an execution. Caustic pings Wraith's location to the crypto on his team, but his respawn timer runs out. So, what can we conclude? The arrow's going to be the next heirloom item in Apex Legends. It seems that, like canals, trains are just natural attractors for bruh moments. Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood when Bradley's train gets bombed, bruh moment. Violet Evergarden when someone attempted to murder dignitaries in order to prevent a peace treaty being reached on this universe's equivalent of World War I, bruh moment. Zinkyou Terror when 12 failed to stop a bomb going off in a train in a scene that has scary amounts of references to the 1995 Tokyo sarin attacks. Actually, that's kind of massive bruh moment. This last example is fairly surprising, as the showrunner of Zinkyou Terror, Shinichiro Watanabe, normally presents trains in a very positive light. For example, in Space Dandy, we get a very heartwarming scene with Dandy protecting a child on a train. In Carol and Tuesday, we see Tuesday escape to a bright new future on a train with a USB socket in the cattle compartment. For some reason. And in Cowboy Bebop, we get a chase between mushroom smugglers and Ed at her most molesty.
Bad touch, stranger danger.
And what's more, we see a conversation between Ayn and a cow. I assume the cow was telling Ayn that they were pissed off that Tuesday stole their socket. And finally, I want to bring up something I mentioned over a year ago when I was talking about Hinamatsuri. I mentioned how it's a reverse isekai, in that a fantasy character gets transported to the real world, and I named this trope Re-Isekai, as a portmanteau of isekai and recreators. Now, there's a recurring joke about isekai, which is truck-kun. This joke is that every isekai story starts with our protagonist being hit by a truck, which sends them to a fantasy world. However, since I just mentioned recreators, let's turn our attention to it. Because the anime starts out with a character killing themselves by throwing themselves in front of a train. And what happens then? Fantasy characters appear in the real world. That's right, in isekai, you have truck-kun, but in Re-Isekai, you have Train-chan. And even when Altar tries to stop the suicide from happening, she isn't strong enough to stop Train-chan. Fuck Celestia, fuck Megane, and fuck Meteora as well. Train-chan is best girl. And like a lot of train journeys, this video feels like it went on for much longer than it needed to.